Hi guys, Delaj here with yet another Click Talk. We are diving even deeper into the Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Commons set. We got quite a few. Looking forward to these. One of my absolute favorite characters is in this part, so yeah, no real introduction needed. Let's get to it. Alright, so first up we have the S.H.I.E.L.D. Bodyguard, or Mr. Mullet, and his real click, or name click, Alexander Pierce. We'll get to him in a moment. Let's start with the S.H.I.E.L.D. Bodyguard. He is a 35-point base click for Signal Lightning, so one character 4 squares away, which is a little shorter than the other ones that have been on this team, but that's okay. 4 clicks of life, not many powers. He starts with Sidestep and Defend, which makes sense because he's a bodyguard. Sidestep, he can get in the way, and Defend, he can help protect the other people. Then he gains Close Combat Expert, which makes him a little bit better in a fight, which is good because he's not all that great to be in a fight in the first place. Then he loses everything except Defend for his final 2 clicks, so he is literally just a meat shield at that point, and then he gets knocked out. Yeah, he's a pretty basic click, nothing major going on with him. He's got the Rally Star ability, which we've mentioned in previous videos. But yeah, cheap click, basic powers. Let's get on to the real important one. Alexander Pierce. He is actually the bodyguard of Nick Fury in the comic books. But for those of you who are mostly the MCU fans out there, myself kind of included, I'm getting pretty deep into the comics at this point, but I started in the MCU. He would be more recognizable as the Robert Redford character, Alexander Pierce, from the Marvel Captain America Winter Soldier, who took over S.H.I.E.L.D. partway through the movie when Nick Fury was killed by the Winter Soldier. In this one, he does not turn out to be a Hydra double agent taking control of S.H.I.E.L.D. as far as I'm aware of. He is just your bodyguard. He's got quite a few powers. He's a 60-point click, so he's kind of up there, much like the other named characters in the set. Basic click, 5 single lightning, like we're used to, 60-point, like I mentioned. And let's see. He's got Sidestep, Toughness, Perplex, so he helps boost his team. Keeps those for 2 clicks. Then trades in his Toughness for... Oh, never mind. He trades in his Perplex, not his Toughness, his Perplex for Empower, so he helps his teammates punch a little bit harder, which makes sense because he's a bodyguard. He should probably be close to the person he's defending. Then he trades in the Toughness for combat reflexes, making him a little better in close combat, which makes sense for a character like him. 5 clicks of life, 3 Sidestep Toughness, 2 with Perplex, 1 with Empower, then 2 clicks with Leap Climb, combat reflexes, and Empower. But that's not the important part. The important part are his double star abilities. Now he's got the Changing a World ability, which I've mentioned in previous videos, and it's quite good, especially for a Marvel team. Opposing characters with adjacent to 2 or more friendly characters with the shield keyword can't use willpower or exploit weakness. Exploit weakness is essentially the close combat version of penetrating psychic blast, so it's pretty good to neutralize that if your opponent is running a very close combat heavy team. And then his next ability is quite a bit of fun. He's got the Nick Fury's Personal Bodyguard, where adjacent friendly characters that share a keyword with Pierce can use Mastermind, which allows them to transfer damage on them to somebody else, but in this case only can transfer it to Alexander Pierce, so he literally leaps into the way of like a bullet or a sword or something like that. Regardless of his point value. So like the 20-point S.H.I.E.L.D. recruit can put Alexander Pierce in the way, whereas normally the Mastermind has to sacrifice a minion. A friendly character named Nick Fury within 4 squares in line of fire doesn't have to be adjacent, so if Nick Fury is on the field, he can use Alexander Pierce as his personal bodyguard, see the name, to defend himself, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, 60 points, some pretty good defend powers, helps you keep your Nick Fury on the field just a little bit longer. So yeah, what's next? Next up, we have the Shield Recruit, who is my personal favorite from the set. For no real reason. I just kind of really dig the Shield Recruit. She is accompanied by her named character, Peggy Carter, who is very recognizable from the MCUs, but we'll get to her in a moment. Shield Recruit. She, basic click, 4 single lightning, 20 points. 20 points. So she is very, very cheap. I don't think there's any modern day Heroclix who are actually as cheap as the Shield Recruit is. Maybe there are some. Feel free to correct me in the comments below. But she's got some pretty amazing powers. She's got Plasticity, Combat Reflexes, and Close Combat Expert. And then on her final click, she trades in Plasticity, Close Combat Reflexes for Willpower, allowing her to go just a little bit further. She's got 1, 2, 3 total clicks of life. That's 3. So any high-level character with a 3 damage is going to knock her straight out of the field. But you don't keep her around because she's powerful. You keep her around because there's a lot of her and she has some pretty neat tricks up her sleeve. I've pretty much touched on all the powers. She's only got 3 clicks of life, so there's not much to talk about. But she does have the rally ability, as we've mentioned before. So you can probably guess what Peggy Carter has. Speaking of Peggy Carter, nice little sculpt here. You might recognize her from the Agent Carter spinoff, which has also gotten its own series and is running pretty effectively now. Or you might just recognize her from her cameos in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or like the movies. She played a pretty major part in Captain America's transformation from scrawny Steve Rogers into Beefcake Captain America. She also made a brief little showing in... Goddamn, I just said it. Winter Soldier. She made a brief showing in Winter Soldier. She was pretty good in that. But let's talk about the click. She has a star ability, a cross improved trait, basic click, 4 single lightning, and 60 points, like most of the name characters on the set. Let's see. She's got running shot, energy explosion, so she's got some grenades tucked away. Super senses, and a special that I'll get into called called Saboteur. We'll get into that in a moment. She quickly trades her running shot for sidestep, and then loses the grenades in favor of the bayonet, literally called Blaze Claw's Fangs. Then she quickly trades back into a charge. Blaze Claw's Fangs combat reflexes, losing her special Saboteur ability. She keeps that for 1 more, and then she dies. 5 clicks of life. So she's got a bit of staying power. She's got a lot of variability in her click. So she's very, I guess, prepared would be the way to put it. But yeah, running shot, she's running in and shooting you. Then sidestep, she's trying to kind of position around you. And then she goes into charge, where she's just like, nope, I'm done. Deal with it. Alright, but then into the specials. So she's got the improved trait. She is a veteran of the trenches, as it's called, and she gets, when moving, ignores hindering terrain, which is pretty good. Allows her to quickly move, over the rubble and through the trenches all the way up to the enemy's lines. And then she's got a star ability. However, she does not have Changing the World, like you would have expected based on the rally Changing the World pattern from the previous videos. Hers is actually called Behind Enemy Lines, and it's actually a personal favorite of mine just because of how overpowered it is. If she's closer to an opponent's starting area than her own, she can use Stealth and Shape Change. So the Stealth, if she's behind hindering terrain or like any sort of blocking stuff, if she isn't completely exposed to the enemy, then they can't shoot her. And with Shape Change, if they try to shoot her, she can roll a 5 or 6, and she can roll a 6-sided die, and on a 5 or 6, she can't be shot. Combine that with the fact that she already has super senses on her first 2 or 3 clicks, you're not gonna hit this woman. She is literally unshootable. But I just find that really funny. But yeah, that's her dial, that's her clicks. For a common, you really can't go wrong with Peggy Carter. So let's bring on the next one. Alright, next up we have the Shield Paranormal Investigator, who's got the same color scheme as the Shield Bodyguard, which I find slightly interesting. I don't know if that was intentional or they just kind of went along with it or what. But he's kind of obscure, but pretty cool. And he's accompanied by Jimmy Woo, who you probably don't know all that much about. I'll go into his history during his segment, but he's kind of out there. You don't really find a lot about Jimmy Woo nowadays. But Shield Paranormal Investigator, 40 points. 40 points, basic dial, 5 single lightning. So he's a pretty standard agent. He's very stealth focused. He comes with a special called Uncover Everything, which I'll get into in a moment, and willpower with outwit. So he's a great outwit source if you need it on your team. He holds on to that set. He immediately trades the outwit for probability control if he takes a single hit, and then loses all damage-based powers the click after, followed by regaining probability control on his final click before he dies. So he's got outwit, probability control, nothing, probability control, dead. He keeps the willpower. Yeah, he always has willpower, and he always has his Uncover Everything ability, which is pretty cool. But that's his dial. I mean, these generic characters don't have very big dials, so there's not a lot to talk about with them. First off, he has the rally ability, like half of the characters in this set do. So it seems. We'll get into the Hydra team eventually, and they do not have rally. But his special, he has Uncover Everything. He can use stealth, and you give him a free action to choose an adjacent opposing character which can't use shape change or stealth. So he has stealth, he gets up next to a guy, and that guy can't hide in any of the ways that this game really lets you hide. He can't stealth, he can't shape change. So that's great if you're facing an opponent who has a lot of those abilities, like, say, Peggy Carter, whose behind enemy lines ability would give her both. He would be able to neutralize those by just him being adjacent. So if you've got an opponent who's doing a lot of that sort of stuff, it might be a good idea to use some of these paranormal investigators to neutralize that. Alright, now, Jimmy Woo. This guy was part of a team back in the 1960s, 1970s called Agent of Atlas, which I honestly don't know that much about. I was born in the 90s, so he was way before my time. The biggest reference I could find to him in present time, he had a very brief appearance in the I think it was actually titled, the Agent of Atlas single issue run during the 50th anniversary of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Sorry, not 50th anniversary of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the 50th anniversary of S.H.I.E.L.D. as like a unit. It did a whole bunch of one-offs with Fury, Mockingbird, Quake, my personal favorite, and Jimmy Woo. I was always when I got this click originally, I was very interested because he's a paranormal investigator who works for S.H.I.E.L.D., but is a detective. He's a police officer, which I found very cool, just to be honest with you. He's a cop who's going and doing stuff. But anyways, he's 60 points, basic dial, double lightning, range 6. So 2 characters, 6 squares away. So he's a bit more range focused. He's got a star ability. We'll get into that in the end. He's got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clicks of life. Almost all stealth. 3 stealth, 2 sidestep. Then he's got frag grenades, or energy explosion as it's called, where you hit adjacent characters to the character you're just trying to hit. Penetrating psychic blast. What is that? Oh, energy explosion. Yeah, I mentioned that one. So, okay, so he alternates his energy explosion and his penetrating psychic blast. So sometimes he's using high caliber rounds, sometimes he's throwing frag grenades. That's pretty cool. Energy shield deflection, followed by toughness, followed by energy shield deflection on his final click. And then this is where he tries and gets clever. He's got a special called I've Seen All the Tricks, which he trades in immediately for outwit, and then immediately trades back, and then gets outwit for his final 2 clicks and then dies. So he's got a couple of tricks up his sleeve. His dial's got a little bit of mix-up going on. But anyways, Changing the World. He has the Changing World ability. Now let's see, his is, if you're adjacent to 2 or more friendly characters with a shield keyword, they can't use willpower or the Mystic Steam ability. Mystic Steam ability is great. That is when the Mystic takes a hit. The person who hit him then also takes a single click of damage unavoidably. So no reducers, nothing like that. It's a great way to neutralize stop clicks, or if your opponent is just can't seem to hit him, then you run some Mystics and then you're able to neutralize it. The Star Sapphires from the War of Light DC set were very focused on the Mystic Steam ability. A lot of their high-level characters actually had ways to boost the Mystic Steam ability up to 2. Like if they're closer to the your starting area than their own, then they take 2. If they hit a certain person, then they take an extra 1. Stuff like that. It's a very cool set. I'm personally running the Star Sapphires. I ran them in the tournament that I will be posting battle reports as soon as I can finish sorting through them all and figuring out what's worth keeping and what's not worth keeping, and trying to keep the videos within a reasonable time span. But anyways, his special called I've Seen All the Tricks. Jimmy Woo can use probability control. Jimmy Woo and adjacent friendly characters that share a keyword can't be targeted by opposing probability control. So if your opponent is running a very probability control focused team, having Jimmy Woo would be able to stop them from using probability control to stop you from getting your hits in. Jimmy Woo would give you probability control for a lot, so then you'd be able to control your dice, and he's able to neutralize the opponent from controlling your dice, which is great. For 60 clicks, it's hard to go wrong with a guy like Jimmy Woo. He's kind of a personal favorite, only based on his click play, nothing to do with comics, which is kind of weird, but it also kind of makes sense in its own way. All right, so what's next? All right, and we're back to the conclusion. Yeah, we got through another 6 figures, even though it was really only 3 numbers because they're running the generics and the duplicates as a single number. So let's see, with the 2, 5, 8, we are pretty close to finished with the commons. I think that I've maybe got one more video if I extend it out a little bit longer than normal. So yeah, we should be wrapping up these commons and moving up into the uncommons very shortly. So I guess just stay tuned. If you liked what you saw, hit that like button, leave a comment saying improvements, things you want to see more of, things you want to see less of, not including my own face. Subscribe. I'm going to keep doing this until somebody tells me to stop with some power. Yeah. Take care.